hear the words visionary and multi-billion-dollar empire, who comes to mind? But what if I tell you that the most overlooked entrepreneur of our generation might be this guy?
I don't give a fuck.
In the last 20 years, Dana White turned a bankrupt company into one of the biggest sports promotion in the world.
And everybody's like, wow, that's the greatest investment in the history of mankind. Well, let me tell you the rest of the story.
And you don't accomplish that without making a few enemies.
There's plenty of people that would like to assault me. Get in line.
Some of them coming from unexpected places.
He's not a good person. He seems to have lost his character somewhere along the way.
Standing in Dana's shadow, a few powerful men operate away from the spotlight, turning what was once an illegal operation into the fastest growing sport of our generation.
Someday, everyone will talk about the UFC.
This is the sport of the future.
Between political disasters, drug scandals, and encounters with the mafia, if the rise of the UFC from its ashes isn't one of America's greatest success stories, it certainly is the most controversial one. Starts when the UFC's dying at UFC 27.
It was nothing that what we expected. There was no energy in the crowd. We walk in the arena, 1/16 full. There's nobody there. I wanted to buy a program. They didn't have a program. I wanted to buy a t-shirt. You can buy a t-shirt.
This man looks calm and collected, but don't let it fool you. He's a straight-up business savage. The name is Lorenzo Fertitta.
And if you really know the history of the Fertittas and what they've built and what they've done, incredible businessmen. He and his brother Frank Fertitta own Station Casinos, which is the third or fourth largest gaming company in the country.
So I'm sitting at the fight with Dana and I'm going,
Imagine if they did this and imagine if they did that. This thing could be big.
either there's something really wrong with us or this business just isn't being run the right way.
And you can blame it on these guys. Rorion Gracie, Art Davie, and Bob Merowitz founded the UFC in 1993 under Semaphore Entertainment Group, SEG.
There was a quote from TV Guide after the first UFC. This is the bloodiest, most brutal spectacle in the history of mankind.
It was one of those things you kind of wanted to watch, but didn't know if you should be.
It was basically old marketing by the old owners just to make it sound crazy.
If SEG made one key mistake, it was pissing off the wrong American hero.
Well, eventually Senator John McCain stepped in.
What it was at the beginning was human cockfighting. It was. I mean, I've seen people repeatedly getting smashed in the face with a guy sitting on top of him. That's not a sport.
He said, what are you doing? You can't go put on fights that aren't regulated by the Athletic Commission.
There was no referee. There was nothing. It was terrible.
The owner basically said, trust me when I say this. I've been in business for a long time. You can't mess with the government. Tell the government you're not going to do what they want you to do. See what happens.
McCain leads a campaign to ban the UFC across the US. He pressures cable companies to stop showing UFC events.
John McCain to ban Ultimate Fighting, taking it too far.
When that happens, Gracie and Davey ditch SEG, leaving Bob Merowitz alone at the helm of the UFC.
So now the cable companies wouldn't put them on pay-per-view. The ATM machine was cut off.
Check this out. Those are the revenues of the UFC per event from UFC 1 to UFC 27. Little did Bob know, the two guys who would end up saving his ass were sitting right there at UFC 27. And one of them prepared his entire life for that moment.
I had a hardcore upbringing, I was the broke kid.
My dad was an alcoholic and was never around. And when he did show up, you didn't want him around. You know what I mean?
I come from a single mom who worked hard and didn't have a lot of money.
So me and my sister were home a lot alone. One of the things I think about growing up alone is, there's a lot of stuff that you have to learn on your own.
He just had this great personality. People were attracted to him. They wanted to be his friend. They like hanging out with him.
You went to school with Lorenzo, your partner now.
Me and Dana go way back to the time we were like 14, 15 years old. Knew each other all through high school.
I got kicked out of high school a bunch of times. I was just never a school guy.
I mean, Dana has a high school education and that's it.
I was a bouncer. I did paving. I worked at the Four Seasons as a bellman.
My mother used to tell me that I was going to be just like my father and not amount to anything. And I was going to be pumping gas into my friends' cars. My mom did a lot of shit like that. And I'm not saying that that's what drove me, but that didn't hurt. I always knew I wanted to be in the fight business.
Half the battle in life is figuring out who you are and what you want to do for the rest of it.